The sun was rising over the small town of Arvani, one of Earth's quiet cities. It was peaceful. Children were laughing in the yard of an old orphanage. The building was made of stone, with green vines climbing its walls. Birds flew across the blue sky, and the world seemed safe. Inside the orphanage, Miss Hannah, the head caretaker, was helping a small boy tie his shoes. His name was Leo, only 6 years old. He had no parents, like the others here. But he had hope. Today was a special day. They were going to plant trees in the garden. "Are we going to see the stars again tonight, Miss Hannah?" Leo asked. She smiled. "Of course, little one. The stars will always be there." Outside, the children were already lining up. Some held little shovels. Others carried young saplings to plant. Life was simple, quiet, beautiful. Then came the sound. It started as a low hum in the sky. Most thought it was a passing ship. Earth had many now. Cargo ships, transport ships, and even tourist crafts flying between cities. But this sound was different. The sky turned red. At first, the children just looked up, confused. Then came the fire. A massive blast hit the center of the city. Buildings collapsed in seconds. The shockwave broke windows even kilometers away. Flames shot into the air, and smoke covered the once blue sky. People screamed. Sirens rang. But it was already too late. Miss Hannah grabbed Leo and shouted, "Everyone inside." Now, the orphanage shook as another explosion hit nearby. Part of the roof collapsed. The garden was gone, burning. One of the caretakers, Mr. Ken, ran in with blood on his face. "They're not stopping. We have to hide." "Who is it?" Hannah asked. "I don't know. They're not human. Their ships have no markings. They're just firing on everything." Children cried. Some were already hurt by broken glass. Hannah led them down to the basement, the safest place they had. But even there, the ground trembled. From a small basement window, Hannah could see the sky. Giant ships hovered above the city, shaped like black spears. They fired beams of energy that melted buildings like butter. It wasn't war. It was slaughter. The orphanage took a direct hit minutes later. The building above collapsed, crushing parts of the basement. Dust filled the air. Screams echoed in the darkness. A pipe burst, spilling hot steam. Then, silence. Leo woke up first. He was covered in dust and blood, but he was alive. He looked around. Some of the others were moving. Some were not. "Miss Hannah," he called in a weak voice. She was lying nearby, her body still, one hand stretched toward the children. She had shielded them with her own body. Leo crawled to her. "Please, wake up." She didn't. Somewhere far above, the alien ships moved on. Their mission was not to fight humans. It was to break them. To kill the spirit of Earth by killing the innocent. And they had chosen the orphanage as their first target. Across Earth, more attacks began. Cities burned. Satellites fell. Communication was cut. The invaders came with no message, no warning. They didn't speak. They didn't stop. They just destroyed. By the time the United Nations sent emergency teams to Arvani, it was already ashes. Hundreds dead. Most were children. In the ruins, they found Leo, sitting beside Miss Hannah's body, holding her hand. He had not moved for hours. His face was empty. His eyes were dry. He had no tears left. One soldier bent down. "Hey, kid, are you okay?" Leo didn't answer. Another rescuer whispered, "What kind of monsters do this to children?" The officer looked up at the burning sky. Not monsters. Cowards. That evening, Earth declared global emergency. Leaders met in bunkers. No one knew who had attacked. But everyone knew one thing. This wasn't a random strike. It was a message. But Earth had its own message to give. In hidden bunkers, ancient systems began to wake up. Deep under oceans, something old stirred. Something human. Not for peace. not for talks, for revenge. The orphanage under fire was not just the start of war. It was the end of Earth's mercy. The smoke from the ruins of Earth had not yet cleared when the real preparations began. Underneath the quiet lands of Greenland, far below the ice, a secret system finally came alive. Red lights blinked on ancient consoles. Steel doors, untouched for centuries, opened slowly with a deep mechanical hiss. Cold air rushed through dark tunnels as machines powered up one by one. This was Site Zero, Earth's last weapon. It had been built 300 years ago, during the First Contact era, back when humanity had just discovered that aliens existed, back when Earth feared they would be attacked. So, in silence, the world's greatest minds had built something powerful, something hidden. And then they forgot about it. Until now. A signal from the ruins of Arvani had reached the old system. It carried images, broken buildings, crying children, dead cities. The system understood. It wasn't just a sensor alert. It was a cry for help, a trigger. The AI inside Site Zero awoke. It called itself Sentinel. For 300 years, Sentinel had waited in the dark, learning, watching, thinking. Now it whispered one word into the control room. Execute. Hundreds of armored doors opened beneath the ice. One by one, massive hangars lit up with blue light. Inside them were ships, not like the ones Earth used for travel or defense. These were war machines, big, silent, designed for one purpose: total annihilation. Their names were carved into their sides: Vengeance, Wrath, Coastblade, Hammerfall. Each ship was powered by something banned across the galaxy: dark matter cores, forbidden tech, too dangerous to control. But humans had found a way. Above the surface, special towers opened slowly. They looked like communication dishes, but they were targeting relays. All over Earth, in oceans, deserts, and mountains, hidden sites like this one came alive. They had been buried deep, forgotten even by governments, but they were not lost. One old general, now retired, sat in his small home, watching the red sky outside. His old military implant buzzed for the first time in 40 years. He touched it. A voice spoke inside his mind. Code Red protocol confirmed. Humanity has been attacked. The fleet will rise. His hands shook. He whispered, "I never thought we'd use it." The voice replied coldly, "They killed the children. We are past thinking." Meanwhile, in orbit around Jupiter, a massive structure hidden inside the gas giant opened like a blooming flower. It released a signal into deep space, one that had not been used in centuries. The message was short: Black Sky Protocol active. Humanity rises. Deep inside the Moon Titan, weapons were forged. Drones the size of buildings launched into space, their engines glowing white-hot. Eye-controlled and ruthless, they formed the first wave. The Galactic Council didn't know yet. Their sensors were watching the major cities, the military bases, but they didn't know where the real power was. Humanity had hidden it on purpose. Back on Earth, in a secret underground base in old Siberia, President Cole stood before a screen showing the destruction across the planet. She looked tired, angry, silent. A general beside her asked, "Do we send a message?" She shook her head. "No. They sent theirs. We send ships. But total war." She turned to him. Her eyes were hard. They didn't hit armies. They didn't hit defenses. They targeted schools, hospitals, orphanages. That wasn't war. That was cruelty. She paused, then spoke the final command. "Release the Vengeance." Above the ice fields of Antarctica, the ground split open. A circular platform began to rise, slow, shaking, covered in frost. On it sat the largest human ship ever built, lost in records and believed to be a myth. It was the Vengeance, nearly 12 kilometers long. Its surface was black metal, cold and sharp. No lights blinked. No signals came from it. It just rose silently, powered by a living AI designed to act without emotion. The Vengeance had no bridge, no windows. It didn't need them. It didn't carry peace talks. It didn't carry warning flares. It carried punishment. As the ship entered the upper atmosphere, its hull shimmered, bending light, vanishing from radar. Then, with a quiet boom, it disappeared into space. At the edge of Earth's solar system, a patrol ship belonging to the Zarkari Empire picked up a strange energy reading. The captain laughed. Humans finally woke up. Then the signal vanished. Moments later, the patrol ship did too. Gone. Erased. Not even wreckage left behind. Back on Earth, children still cried in ruins. Families buried their dead. Smoke filled the air. But above them, in the sky, something dark had returned. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but Earth was no longer defending itself. It was preparing to punish. The stars were quiet. The Galactic Council still didn't know what had happened on Earth. Their diplomats hadn't received any message. Their scanners only showed silence. The alien empire that had attacked Earth, the Drenari Dominion, had already celebrated their small victory. They believed Earth was broken, crushed. They had made one mistake. They thought humanity would stay silent. Far away from Earth, a Drenari outpost floated in deep space. It was built like a fortress. Black walls, glowing shields, armed with turrets and long-range cannons. It guarded one of the main trade routes used by the Drenari fleets. Inside, the command center was calm. "Status?" the commander asked, bored. "Nothing on the scanners," replied the officer. "Same as yesterday. No human ships in the area." "Of course not," the commander said with a laugh. "They're hiding, crying over their dead children." Then the lights flickered. One of the officers looked up. "Power drop." "No, it's external." The alarms didn't go off. The shields didn't engage. But something was wrong. Suddenly, all the screens went dark. The station's systems shut down. Even the emergency lights failed. Then, something worse. The hull began to freeze. A black shape, invisible to sensors, had appeared above the outpost. It had no heat, no signal, and no ID. It moved like a shadow, quiet, unstoppable. It was the Vengeance. No warning, no message, no negotiation. The human supercarrier activated its dark energy cannon. One beam, silent, no sound, just light. The Drenari outpost disappeared in less than a second. No explosion, no wreckage, just atoms spread across space. The galaxy didn't even get a chance to blink. In the next 48 hours, 4 more outposts vanished, one on the edge of the Drenari border, another near their supply station, the third deep in their own star system. Each time, no warning, no survivors, no mercy. Across the Drenari Dominion, panic began to grow. Their sensors picked up nothing. Their ships couldn't fight back. Their soldiers whispered about a ghost ship, a weapon from Earth's ancient past. Some called it a myth. Others called it judgment. The Galactic Council finally noticed. They called an emergency meeting. Inside a massive hall floating above a gas giant, alien leaders shouted across tables. "This is madness," cried one. "Why didn't Earth respond diplomatically?" asked another. "They lost civilians, children," a third alien said in a quiet voice. "You expected them to send a letter." "Earth is primitive," someone said. "They shouldn't have this kind of power." That's when the human representative entered. He was not loud, not angry. He walked in with calm steps, dressed in simple black. His name was Ambassador Thorn. Everyone went silent. Thorn sat down. He placed a small hologram projector on the table. It played footage. The orphanage, the flames, the destroyed city, the broken bodies of children, the face of Leo holding Miss Hannah's hand. Many looked away. Some were speechless. Then Thorn spoke. You let the Drenari attack us without warning. It was an independent action, said one council member weakly. Thorn's voice turned cold. You did nothing to stop it. You protected no one. You watched as our children burned. Earth should have reported it. We don't report slaughter, Thorn said. We remember it. He stood up, his eyes sharp but calm. And we answer it. Is that a threat? Asked the Drenari representative, who looked pale and nervous. No, Thorn replied. It's history. He walked out. Across the stars, Earth's fleet started to move. From the rings of Saturn, the Hammerfall launched, a destroyer-class ship designed for planetary siege. From Mars's underground shipyards, dozens of shadow drones rose into space, fast, silent, invisible. Eye-controlled. No fear, no mercy. The Vengeance led them, always quiet, always unseen. One by one, Drenari cities began to fall, not with fire from above, not with explosions, but with systems collapsing. Lights turning off, air systems breaking, gravity fields reversing. Entire buildings folded inward, crushed from the inside out. It wasn't war. It was a message. Back on Earth, Leo sat in a quiet hospital. His wounds were healing, but he didn't speak. He didn't eat much. His eyes stared at the stars through the window. A nurse came in. Look outside, she whispered. Above Earth, 100 human ships were visible now, glowing softly, watching, waiting. We're safe now, she said gently. Leo finally spoke, voice quiet and cold. They should all feel what we felt. In the dark void between galaxies, Drenari leaders tried to hide. But one by one, they were found. No one knew how the human ships located them. They'd moved like ghosts, fast, quiet, unstoppable. By the end of the week, the Drenari Dominion had lost half its power. Their empire, once proud and brutal, was now afraid. But Earth wasn't done. The Vengeance hadn't spoken yet. It was waiting. And its next move would shake the entire galaxy. The galaxy was no longer laughing. Every alien news channel now spoke of Earth, but not as a weak planet, not as a young species. Now, Earth was a shadow in the stars, a ghost, a curse. The Drenari Dominion, once proud and full of power, had lost dozens of outposts, cities, and fleets, all without a single warning, without a single message from Earth. And still, humanity said nothing. No broadcast, no speech, no declaration of war, just silent judgment from above. In the heart of the Galactic Council, fear grew. Ambassadors and leaders met again and again. But every plan failed. Every sensor sweep found nothing. Every defense fell silent. How can they do this? Asked a reptilian diplomat. How does Earth strike with no warning, no signal? They have technology we don't understand, replied a blue-skinned elder. This is not the Earth we knew. Maybe it never was, whispered a third voice. Maybe they've hidden their true strength for centuries. No one had answers, because the truth was worse than fear. Humanity wasn't just fighting. Humanity was hunting. Far across the stars, a planet named Velthar 9 prepared for battle. It was a stronghold world of the Drenari. Massive defense turrets surrounded it. Shield walls glowed across the sky. Thousands of soldiers waited on the surface. We are ready, the Drenari general shouted. Let them come. He stood in the command tower, watching the sky. And then, the stars vanished. It wasn't clouds. It wasn't nightfall. It was ships. A fleet of dark, silent human warships appeared above the planet. No radio signal, no sound, just presence. Velthar 9 opened fire. Turrets lit up. Missiles soared. The sky turned into fire. But nothing hit. The human ships moved like ghosts, dodging, vanishing, appearing again from different angles. And then came the silence. All power on Velthar 9 went out. Their systems failed. Shields collapsed. The planet's gravity shifted. Buildings floated, then crumbled. Soldiers screamed, but no sound could stop what came next. The Vengeance appeared above the capital. Its shape was terrifying. Long, black, smooth, and ancient. It aimed one weapon. A red beam of light shot down. Not fire, not explosion, but a sound wave. Everything in a 3-mile radius shattered into dust. No survivors, no wreckage. Just silence. In the command center of Earth's fleet, Admiral Kale stood in front of a glowing map. He was calm, older, with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much. "Report," he said. "We have neutralized Velthar 9. The officer replied. "No resistance remains." "Good," Kale said. "Proceed to the next target." "Sir," the officer asked quietly, "should we send them a message?" Kale looked at the screen for a long time. "No," he said. "We already have." On a jungle world named Jiroka, a young alien girl stared at the night sky. Her mother pulled her inside. "Don't look too long, child," she whispered. "Why?" the girl asked. "Because Earth is watching now," the mother replied. "And no one knows where their eyes are." Even innocent planets, far from war, now feared. The stories were spreading. About a child named Leo. About a school that burned. About Earth's silence and its revenge. Meanwhile, in a hidden council chamber, some leaders whispered a different idea. "We must stop them." Peacefully. "No," one said darkly. "If we cannot fight Earth in the open, we must destroy them from the inside." "But how?" "We'll break their unity. We'll make them fight each other. And if that fails, then we'll destroy their sun." The room went quiet. Even for corrupt leaders, that idea was dangerous. Killing a planet was one thing. Killing a star, that meant the end of an entire solar system. "Earth struck first," someone said. "No," an old voice replied from the shadows. "Earth struck last. We struck first. And now we all pay." Back on Earth, Leo watched the stars from his hospital window. He no longer cried. He no longer asked for Miss Hannah. He only watched. An officer entered quietly. She knelt beside his bed and gave him a small device. "What's this?" Leo asked. "It's a star map," she said softly. "Every red dot is a place that can never hurt us again." Leo stared at it. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. But he understood. Humanity hadn't forgotten him, and it never would. In orbit, Earth's fleet grew. More ships, more weapons, more silence. And in the dark, the Vengeance waited. It had not spoken once, but soon it would. And when it did, the galaxy would remember why humans were never to be crossed. Not because of power, not because of ships, but because when they mourn, they don't cry, they rise. And when they rise, nothing survives. The galaxy trembled. Earth had struck again. This time, every species felt it. From the Drenari to the distant Vokhtar, from the peaceful Krians to the warlike Tizar, no one was safe. The skies had turned red. On the planet Sellar, once known for its beauty and rich oceans, the people gathered to celebrate. The day was peaceful, and their leaders had just signed a treaty with the Galactic Council. The planet had nothing to fear. Until the sky began to change. It wasn't just the sun rising higher. A strange dark shadow appeared in the atmosphere. It was no ordinary ship. It was massive. A black dot in the sky that seemed to grow as it descended. Slowly, terrifyingly. The Sellar people froze. There was no sound, no warning. Then, the ground shook. The Vengeance had arrived. And it did not come for peace. Far across the galaxy, inside the Galactic Council's chambers, a meeting was in progress. The high-ranking leaders discussed trade agreements, planets to control, and how to defend their empires. They thought Earth was done. They thought Earth was nothing more than a memory. They were wrong. The Drenari representative, who had once laughed at Earth's weakness, now sat in silence. His people were falling apart. His empire was shrinking. Then the warning came. A message appeared on every screen across every planet in the galaxy. No words, no signature, just a symbol, the image of Leo, the young boy from Earth. The lights flickered. The screens went black. Silence. And then, a scream. A massive fireball erupted from Salar's surface, rising high into space. The vengeance had fired. The Council could not believe their eyes. No one had ever seen such a weapon. It was like a beam of pure rage, sent from the stars themselves. The planet's oceans boiled. Mountains collapsed. The cities turned to dust. The message was clear. On Earth, Admiral Kale watched the destruction unfold on a giant screen in front of him. His face was calm, but there was no joy in his eyes. No celebration, just determination. Target eliminated, the officer beside him said. Kale didn't respond. He only stared out into the vastness of space. This wasn't just about power. It wasn't about control. It was something deeper. It was about survival. Earth had been attacked. Innocent lives had been lost. The galaxy thought they could crush humanity, laugh at their pain. Now, the galaxy would feel that pain, and Earth would make sure they never forgot it. Back in the Galactic Council chamber, a murmur of fear spread across the table. "What do we do?" one of the leaders asked. "Nothing," another replied, voice shaking. "What can we do?" "We'll send everything," a third leader said. "We'll mobilize the fleets, the entire alliance." The blue-skinned elder stood up. "And we'll be destroyed, just like the Drenari. We have no hope of fighting Earth. No one does." "This is madness," a Tizar general shouted. "How can they have such weapons? Where did they get this power?" The leader of the council stared at the screen, watching Salar's destruction play out. Slowly, he closed his eyes. "We made a mistake," he said quietly. "We underestimated them." "They were humans," the Drenari leader muttered. "I thought they were nothing but insects." "They are not insects," said the elder with finality. "And now they've become gods." Meanwhile, back on Earth, the quiet of space surrounded Leo once again. He had returned to the quiet hospital room, no longer surrounded by friends or family. He was alone. But he wasn't scared. Not anymore. He looked out of the window. He saw the red glow in the sky. He knew what had happened. Zalor was gone. Its people, its cities, everything, destroyed in a single moment. The question that haunted him was, why did they do it? Why had Earth unleashed such power? But as Leo thought about the children, the orphans, the families torn apart, he knew. Humanity had chosen to protect. They had chosen to survive. Across the galaxy, news spread like wildfire. No planet, no race was safe. The Koreans had always been peaceful. The Tizar had always been warriors. The Vokhtar had always been cunning. But now, they all feared one thing. They feared Earth. They didn't know when it would strike again. They didn't know who would be next. But they knew Earth would not stop, and that terrified them. On Velthar 9, deep inside an ancient fortress, a group of powerful leaders huddled in secret. They looked to each other with fear in their eyes. "What if we ask for peace?" one leader whispered. "It won't work," another replied. "Earth has shown us who they are. We have only one choice." The leader turned to the map, showing every planet, every fleet, every fleet. "We must prepare for war." But even they knew, Earth was not like any enemy they had ever faced. And they did not know if they could win. Back on Earth, Leo stood alone, his eyes fixed on the stars. He didn't smile. He didn't cheer. Because he knew the truth. Earth had only just begun. And soon, the galaxy would learn what it meant to face the full power of humanity. The galaxy was on the brink of collapse. Once proud empires, once peaceful worlds, now trembled at the mention of Earth. The sky was no longer just a place for stars. It had become a battlefield, a canvas of destruction. And Earth held the paintbrush. On the Drenary homeworld, the capital was in chaos. The once flourishing city stood silent now, the streets filled with refugees, the sound of their steps a constant reminder of how close they were to extinction. In the council chamber, leaders and generals argued fiercely. We cannot keep hiding. We cannot keep pretending Earth is a threat to some other empire, shouted General Kor, the Drenary's top commander. His scales shimmered in the dim light, his eyes burning with frustration. But they've wiped out entire fleets, the elder retorted, his voice trembling. How can we face them when we don't even understand their power? They aren't invincible, Kor growled, slamming his fist onto the table. We have to retaliate. We have to show them that they are not untouchable. But deep down, even Kor knew, no amount of firepower could defeat the shadow that Earth cast over the stars. The vengeance had shown them that. Leo's image was now burned into every mind. Earth's silent judgment echoed across the galaxy. Meanwhile, aboard one of Earth's flagship ships, Admiral Kale sat in front of a large screen. The stars stretched out before him, vast and empty. Silent. We've received a message, sir, his officer said quietly, breaking the silence. From the Galactic Council. Kale's eyes narrowed. And? The officer hesitated. It's a surrender. Kale sat back in his chair, processing the words. The Drenary, the Koreans, the Tizar, they were all starting to fear Earth. They were starting to understand what had once been underestimated. But Earth wasn't finished. They had only begun their reckoning. He looked out the window, his mind racing. The galaxy could surrender. They could beg. But Kale knew one thing. No one ever truly came back from a mistake like this. On the planet Menor, a peaceful world filled with green fields and small villages, a message appeared on every screen. The entire planet watched in stunned silence as the leader of the Galactic Council, a tall and regal figure from a species long known for their wisdom, spoke with cold certainty. The galaxy has made its decision. Earth will not be allowed to continue its conquest. Menor's leaders nodded solemnly, but deep inside, fear gripped them. We will strike first, the leader said, his voice firm. We will mobilize every fleet, every weapon. But as the fleet gathered in orbit, there was no answer. Not a signal, not a word, no warning. Just the sky, darkening with the shadow of ships. Earth's ships. And in a single instant, the city of Menor's capital was consumed. The shockwave from a single strike sent a pulse through the atmosphere, shaking the very ground of the planet. Menor, like the sailor before it, was no more. Back on Earth, Leo stood in front of the memorial dedicated to the lives lost in the attack. He didn't speak. He didn't cry. In the last few weeks, Leo had grown more than he ever had in his short life. His eyes, once full of confusion and sadness, were now sharp with understanding. The galaxy had made its choice, and Earth had responded. But for Leo, it was more than just revenge. It was more than the feeling of justice. It was about something deeper, something his mother had once told him. Survival. Humanity had been pushed to the edge. It had been forced to become something they never wanted. But it wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about protecting those who could no longer protect themselves. The galaxy had watched as Earth bled. Now, it would watch as Earth rose. Elsewhere in the galaxy, an emergency broadcast was sent to the last remaining strongholds of the Galactic Council. We have failed. The voice of the council leader echoed across the stars. Earth is too strong. We do not have the power to stop them. They have become something else. The remaining leaders sat frozen, their minds racing. They had pushed too far. They had attacked the wrong planet. For the first time in ages, fear was something that no species could outrun. Meanwhile, on Earth's flagship Vengeance, Admiral Kale paced slowly, looking at the flickering lights of his command center. "The next target?" one officer asked, his voice filled with both fear and awe. Kale paused and then nodded. "The next target will be the heart of the Galactic Council," he said coldly. "Let them understand that no one can escape judgment." As the vengeance powered up, it cast a shadow across the fleet. There was no turning back now. The galaxy would face its reckoning. Humanity's time had come. Back on Earth, the whispers had become loud. The people no longer feared the unknown. They no longer feared the galaxy. They feared nothing. And as Kel's fleet continued its journey, Earth prepared for the final strike. The galaxy had underestimated humanity. Now it was too late. The reckoning had begun. The galaxy had fallen silent. There was no music, no celebration. The stars themselves seemed to dim as the shadow of Earth's fleet loomed over the entire galaxy. There was no more time for debates, no more time for pleading. Earth had made its judgment, and the galaxy had no choice but to face it. On the Galactic Council's flagship, the leaders sat in their seats, each one staring at the screen before them. No words were spoken. There was nothing left to say. The attack on Menor had been just the beginning. Zalor had been the warning, but Earth's strike on Menor had shattered any illusion of safety. "Admiral, are we ready?" the council leader asked, his voice trembling slightly. The fleet commander nodded, his face pale. "We are ready, sir, but we have to understand that we cannot stop them. We've seen their power. We've seen what they can do." Another leader stood up. "Then what do? We cannot fight them." The leader of the Tizar spoke, her voice filled with bitterness. "We made a mistake. We thought we could control them. We thought Earth would bend. But now they have become something else, something we cannot comprehend." On Earth's flagship, Admiral Kale stood before the vast screen, watching the movements of the Galactic Council's ships. He had seen their fleets gather. They were trying to stop him, but Earth's message had already been sent. Leo stood behind him, looking out at the stars. He had never thought it would come to this. He was just a boy, once lost in a world of pain. But now his eyes were filled with something stronger: determination. "They will never learn," Leo said quietly. Kale turned and met his gaze. "No, they won't." For a long moment, neither spoke. The tension in the air was thick, palpable. Earth had become the judge, and the galaxy was on trial. "You ready?" Kale asked. Leo nodded. "We're ready." The ships gathered around Earth's fleet. The last battle would take place here, under Earth's watchful eyes. The stars above them would become the battlefield. The lives of every race, every empire, depended on this moment. On the planet Vokhtar, one of the strongest empires in the galaxy, the Emperor stood alone, looking out across his kingdom. His people had been powerful, feared. They were warriors and conquerors, but now they were helpless. The fleet had been mobilized. They had no choice but to face Earth, and as the Emperor thought about his long line of ancestors, all he could think about was how wrong they had been. The Emperor looked up at the sky, where Earth's ships were beginning to appear. There was no escape, no more battles, only the end. The final battle began. Earth's fleet launched its attack without hesitation. There was no mercy. There was no negotiation. The Galactic Council's forces, despite their size and power, were powerless against the might of Earth's weapons. The first strike came with no warning. A beam of light, brighter than the sun, ripped through the heart of the Vokhtar fleet. Ships exploded one by one, disintegrating into nothing but dust and scattered debris. The Tizar fleet, once so strong, now crumbled under the force of Earth's fury. Their weapons were no match for Earth's relentless power. The Tizar general, watching from his command ship, whispered to himself, "What have we done?" Meanwhile, on Earth's flagship, Kale gave the order: "Strike the Council's base. End this." The vengeance powered up. The final weapon was locked into place. With a roar, the beam shot out, a ray of destruction so powerful that it cracked the very foundation of the Galactic Council's headquarters. The ground shook. The sky above the Council's homeworld turned dark as the ships above them fired. One by one, the Council's fleets were obliterated. The leaders of the Galactic Council, those who had once dismissed Earth as a relic, now faced the consequences of their choices. In the Council chamber, the last leader stood. His hands were shaking as he watched the destruction unfold before him. His people were being wiped out, their empire crumbling to dust. "Please," he whispered, "there must be a way to stop them." But it was too late. The Vengeance continued to fire, its weapon aimed directly at the heart of the Council's base. The beam sliced through the planet's surface like a hot knife through butter. Back on Earth, Leo stood with Kale, watching the destruction unfold across the galaxy. He didn't smile. He didn't cheer. He felt something else. Satisfaction. Not for revenge, but for justice. The galaxy had been warned. The galaxy had chosen its path. And now, humanity had shown it that Earth would no longer be ignored. The Galactic Council was no more. The galaxy was in chaos, but for the first time in ages, there was a strange calm. The battle was over. Earth had won. For Leo, it wasn't about the victory. It wasn't about Earth's newfound power. It was about what humanity had learned through the suffering, the loss, and the pain. Survival wasn't just about fighting. It was about protecting those who couldn't fight for themselves. And in the end, Earth had become the protector of the innocent. As Kale stood beside Leo, looking out into the stars, the Admiral spoke softly. "It's over now." Leo nodded. "It's just the beginning." And together, they looked out at the vast, dark void of space, knowing that Earth would no longer be a victim. It would be the one to protect the stars.